let's see. Yeah, there we go. So for you, you started April 1st. What's your background on, I don't know, just with education and work the last couple of years?
So I decided to go back to school in 2019.
Okay.
So I had an associate's degree a long time ago. And I decided I was going back to school, and a friend of mine's invited me to a dinner party in August 2019. So, I was like, okay, and I was just telling them I was going back to school. And one of the gentlemen that was there actually worked for WGU.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it
Good
was just,
coincidence.
yeah, huge coincidence. And so what he did was he got one of his robes from when he graduated. He had a doctorate and everything. So he had my husband put the robe on me and take a picture. So he was like, anytime she feels like it's too hard or difficult, make sure you show her these pictures so she can see what the end goal is.
Yeah.
And so like during that time I did have some challenges. I lost a lot of family members. COVID happened.
Oh wow.
Right after COVID I had a stroke. um so it was just a crazy, crazy time, but I finished and I got my bachelor's. So
And
the little time went by. Oh, go
what
ahead.
was the bachelor's in?
Business management.
And was that from WGU too or something else?
Yes.
Okay.
Nope, it was
Okay.
from WGU, and time went on and I was like, you know what? I might as well. I might as well just keep going. And so last year I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start back up. And so what happened was during that time when I started, I got hit with so much tragedy. I have four family members pass away in February of last year.
Oh my gosh.
And so literally three funerals in one weekend. So it was
That's
just
terrible.
absolutely, yeah, it was just shocking. And it was just like, I just was done. Like, I was like, I can't do this right now. And
Yeah.
um, I just was over it. And so I had to take a break. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna jump back out there in June. And once I got started again, my father passes away, and I
Oh,
bury him in September. And 2 weeks later, my mother-in-law passes away on my birthday.
gee.
So, and this is all in 2021. So
Yeah.
at this point, I'm completely over it. I'm just like, I have no strength. I'm so lost because
Yeah.
that's like all the family I have. It's just me and my siblings left. So like our parents are gone, all of our aunts, our uncles, everybody passed away.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. That's
And
brutal. I'm really sorry to hear that.
thank you. But I'm a person like I try to find light in all situations. I'm blessed that I still have my family, my children and my husband, to push me along. And we had each other during a rough time to hold each other up. And we were
Yeah.
kind of going through the same thing at the same time. So I think that actually helped both of us, um, just to give each other strength when one was weak. So and then our faith, so we just kept pushing on,
Sure.
through that, and just believing there's a purpose for everything. And so in January, no, February, I signed back up to start in April.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, I'm gonna knock this out. I'm not gonna let anything come my way,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get it done.
Yeah.
And of course, things happen, but I had an amazing mentor. So every time she could kind of see, like, okay, I haven't seen her do something for a couple of weeks, or she would call me, and I'm like, I'm gonna finish. I'm on it. I got
Yeah.
it.
And who was
And
your mentor?
her name was Carolyn Warsko,
Oh, okay.
and
I
she
was
was
curious if we had
amazing.
the same one because mine was DaRhanda Jackson and she was just like that. She was always,
Really?
oh,
Oh
she
yeah,
called me
she
every
she
week
is
and I'm
like
just
she
like,
knew my
oh,
pattern. She was like, wait a minute, let me see what's going on with her. And she's kind of been on my journey too, with the breaks and everything. So she's been on my journey, and so she knew like some of the tragedies and things that I had been fighting through.
yeah,
And so she was amazing. Like I really definitely give her kudos because I believe she was a vital part of me pushing through, along with my husband.
Right.
reminding me with those pictures, like, hey, this is the end goal.
Right.
And
Here's you in your
so,
robes, right? Let's get it done.
yes, exactly. So he would take the kids and put a sign. We had signs made to put on my door, testing in progress, studying in progress. So like,
Yeah.
my kids knew, don't bother her. She's in study mode.
Yeah.
And so I
I had
got
to,
it done.
yeah, I had
Yeah.
to do the same thing with my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm locked in for like the next 7 hours. For some
Yeah.
reason, like whenever I did it, and you and I, so we both started April 1st, both finished September. I think my technical date was like September 13th or the 11th, but we were on the exact same path then.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but like for me, I could not finish any class unless it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And so I'd be like, all right, honey, go to bed. And I would be up for
Yeah.
hours and
Like, don't
hours and
even wait
hours.
up. Because
Yeah.
it's like I could focus at that time. I think maybe my mind settled down from everything else with the
Yeah.
kids and work. And so my mind settled down with everything else. And so it's like, okay, I can finally get some focus time on what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And I work best like that. I think I work best under pressure too. I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that person, like, let me hurry up and get this done. Like I'm crapping around right now,
Yeah.
and haven't done anything in like 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, let me do this. So
Right.
yeah.
Especially when it's like you have that deadline. Did you finish the capstone? Like what day did you finish the capstone? Because you were
Uh
cutting it close if
I
it's
was
September
I was
29th, right?
cutting it close. Yeah, I was really cutting it close. Like when I started, I think I started that week, like
Yeah.
the 22nd. Because it was like my birthday, my grandson's birthday. So we had like so much happening. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
party, goodbye, everybody. I'm going to my room because I have 3 tasks to submit and I have this week to do it.
Yeah, the tasks were it was funny because I'm really big into LinkedIn. I worked in staffing for a while, so I know how to help people get jobs and what employers look at, all that stuff. And task 3 was actually the one that kept getting kicked back because they're like,
Really?
yeah, they were like, your artifacts weren't good enough. I'm like, I put my degree in there, I put a couple awards I've gotten, and they were like, yeah, well, you didn't say how it applies to a competency. And I'm like, how something I got 2 years ago applies to a competency in the MBA? Like, who cares, man? And they just
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they wouldn't let me have it.
They
So
were super nitpicky.
yeah. Did you
And
get
it's so crazy because it just depends on your evaluator
yep,
what comes back as good and what comes back as, oh, you need to redo this.
yeah. So what would you say was like your average completion? Because there's 11 classes, or is it 12? Is it 11 and then 12 with the capstone, or is it 10 and 11 with the capstone? I can't
I think
remember.
it's I think it's 11 with the capstone, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
So how often, like for me, it was like I did 3 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, nothing in July, and then 5 in August because I lost my job and I just started hitting it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've got
So,
this one friend, he started September 1st and he's finishing this week.
holy crap, he's
He's
amazing.
nuts. He is
He's
crazy.
determined.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he is determined. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. But
Um,
how often
I
were you
think
doing
for
yours, would you
me,
say? Yeah.
so I started in April. I think I like knocked out 2 classes. Then I lost my job. So then I was like focused on that.
Yeah.
So I was like focused on finding a new job. And in May, I started a new job. So then I was like focused on that. And then that's when like June happened. And she's like, hey, what's going on here? So
She's like, let's get going.
yeah, like September's coming. And I'm like, okay. So like in June, July, I did like 5 classes. And then August, I kind of just did 1 or 2. And then September, I just knocked out everything else. And then
Yeah.
my last week in September was just the capstone. I finished the econ class like the week before. So I
Yeah.
did 2 in September, my last 2 in September. So I
Okay.
finished that and then I was like, okay, I have 1 week. I said, I'm getting this done. I'm
Yeah.
not
I'm not
pushing this.
paying for another one, right?
No, for one class, that's nuts. And
Yeah.
plus I procrastinated a lot of it. So
Right.
so I
Yeah.
was like, well, let me get this done. Yeah. So I just pushed those out like each day. And I had saw somewhere on Reddit that once you submit task 1 to go ahead and start task 3.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I started task 3, even though I couldn't submit it yet. And so I had already started my LinkedIn and my resume was pretty good already. Well, at least I thought it was.
Yeah, yeah,
I figured it was good enough to pass, you know.
right.
And so I had that, and then I pulled the competencies from the degree. I think it was like the degree link or something like that, but it
Yeah,
pulls up all the competencies, and I just picked three that I thought would apply to them,
yeah,
and went from there. So,
yeah, that's
so I
good.
had that ready to go.
Yeah, I was really surprised at the end. I was like, okay, what's this third task? I'm not ready for it. Like, I don't know what else to write about this simulation. And then they're like, you know, what what do you want to do for your career? I'm like, this is the task. That's one thing that I don't know if it was surprising to you, but I feel like the most surprising thing for me about Western Governors was how much they just asked about me when I was doing papers, right? It would be like, just,
Mhm.
write a 4-page paper about what your personality type is in leadership. And I'm like, don't you want me to like analyze personality trait theory, or do you like,
Yeah,
something management theory? I don't know, but they were like, just take this test, and then I want you to write a 6-page paper about it and tell me about a leadership, somebody in leadership. And I mean, you probably end
yeah.
up writing about 100 pages of material for Western Governors. I think mine ended up being, I combined all of them into one PDF, and with all the title pages, it was like 145. So I'm guessing there were 90 to
I'm sure
100
I was
legitimate.
probably pretty close to that myself, because like
Yep.
most of the things I did had a lot of pages, at least 10.
Right.
Um, and I'm pretty wordy, I think, sometimes when I'm writing, because I'm an
Yeah.
overthinker.
No,
So
yeah, me too. I would put in like
I'm like,
18 pages, and they're like, you only needed 12. I went,
yeah,
all right, well,
exactly. I always was over the expectations or whatever, because I didn't want to kick back. So I'm like, I'm trying to put everything, including the kitchen sink, in this paper. So
right. So do you feel like over the course of the MBA, I mean, you were working, right? And you had
Mhm.
like a month. I feel like I took probably 2 months off during the five
Oh,
months where I didn't,
absolutely.
yeah. And it sounds like you're similar. What tools were you using to get through? Like for me, I used Quizlet a lot. I used um Studoc. I used the Facebook support group a ton. And for me, everybody was like, "What are you cheating through it?" I'm like, it's hard to cheat, man. Like you can't
You
do it.
can't.
Yeah,
You
it's just
can't.
like you got to write a
Your
15
tests
page
are
paper. How are you going
proctored.
to cheat that?
You cannot, and they're going to run your paper through to make sure that it's not plagiarized, so you cannot cheat. It's just like there's been so many people that have done it, so there's just some good advice out there to
Yeah,
help guide you through. And if you pay attention to that, like I thought my Facebook groups were amazing,
right.
because it was always somebody in there that's already been there, so their tips were great. My course mentor at the beginning of each class, she always sent me tips that
Yeah,
students told her about. So she always included that in my startup email for my next course.
that's
So I
awesome.
had those tips to go by. And then I would jump on, like you said, Quizlet was very helpful for like a lot of the tests and similarities. So just practicing those different things help get me through those proctor tests too. But
Yeah,
you can't memorize it because you don't know what you're gonna get. So it's like there's
right.
no way to cheat, you
Oh
know.
man, on I
Um,
think it was on C211, I got so many, like I did the Quizlet and I ran through probably 150 questions until I got every one of them right on learn mode, right? And
that's exactly what I did.
yeah, yeah, and I get to the end and then it was nothing like the
Nothing.
Quizlet. And then
I was like,
okay.
did I even
And
read this? You know?
yeah, yeah, but
So,
then you
but
pass anyway, right? And you're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
because yeah, you really you're gonna pass because now you have kind of the idea of what the questions are gonna look like, and you comprehend the content that you went over. So
right."
it's just like really elimination process of elimination for
Yeah,
what it could absolutely not be. And then the couple of that are there, you probably already know it because you went through it so much, or you can take a very good educated guess.
yeah. And like looking back on it, I mean, for me, I was super intimidated doing it because I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm MBA material or anything, right? Like I'm all scared about it. And then I get into the classes, I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Like half of them, I feel like I just knew from working the last 5 years. And did you feel like it was similar where did you feel
Oh yeah.
intimidated by it, or were you like, oh, I got this, I can handle it, I'll be fine?
In the beginning, I was like, I'm too old. So I'm like, what am I thinking? Like I have a whole family, and I've been out of high school forever, you know?
Yeah.
So I was pretty intimidated. I'm like, my brain is probably not functioning right. I had a stroke. So I'm like,
Yeah. You're
I
like,
don't
I
know
don't think I
what's
can do this with
I
a
don't know
stroke.
what's gonna happen when I start to read this material.
Yeah.
But once I did and got in there, I have worked, you know, my background, I've been an executive assistant for CEOs for probably the last 15 years. So I've been in
Okay.
a lot of under a lot of leadership. So I've seen so many things under like the management, strategic planning, and a lot of the competencies that we went over. It just was super easy for me, you know, because it was just like
Right.
all I could refer back to just knowledge of things I've already seen in the workplace. So
Yeah. And I mean,
uh,
I think like I've looked at a lot of these programs that are like, we're looking for MBA graduates that have graduated in the last 2 years, and we just want you to have 4 years work experience along with the MBA, right? So a lot of these programs, I feel like the MBA might be difficult for somebody just out of high school. My brother, he's graduating early from high school and he's doing the bachelor's of business administration before
mhm.
he would be done with high school. So he might have his bachelor's before August of next year at 19 years old.
Wow.
And I mean, and you know that's possible. It's going to be business
Oh,
management.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I was like, dude, you could have a master's by the time you're 20.
Yeah.
And anybody who's done the MBA is like, oh, you could absolutely do it. But anybody who's outside of it, I feel like has this trepidation of like, well, I'm too old. I have too many responsibilities. You know, my
Mhm.
friend who's starting it, he has his degree in psychology and he says, I don't think I can do the MBA because I don't know business. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You
Mhm.
like you if you've had a
You know
job,
so much more than you think you know.
right,
It's just you're used to applying it in a different area or you're used to applying it a different way. But once you get in there, you recognize so many different things and so many ways that you apply this in your everyday life. Especially just working if you know hold different positions. Now, if you're coming from like, you know, just like a beginning work experience, it may be a little bit more intimidating because it's completely out of left field for you. But once you get in there, I think they provide so many different tools for you to tap into that, you know, and then the course instructor is there. Like we talked about previously, there's so many people that have done this before and they leave so many tips. If you jump into one
yeah,
of those groups, there's just so much information. Like I don't know. For
yeah,
me, I don't think you should not pass, you know. So
yeah,
it's just so much information available if you
yeah.
really want to succeed.
Oh, absolutely. I remember seeing so many posts of like, you know, I got my undergrad at a college here in Utah called Utah Valley University, and I mean, they tried to do alumni programs and they tried to be like, hey, you know, go to this group chat, go to this tutoring thing. But you cannot beat those Facebook and Reddit communities. Like people are willing to hop on a call with you or hop on like this
Yeah,
guy that got it in a month. I hopped on and showed him, I was like, here's what the degree is going to look like. Here's the papers you're going to have to write. Here's, you know, your tips for this.
yeah,
Like, and I was totally willing to do that. And at UVU, I feel like it was just like good luck, sucker. You know, we had to do it. You have to do it, right? And
yeah, yeah,
I hope you can get through it, and I hope you don't die. Like that's a hard one. But at
yeah,
Western
yeah.
Gov, like they're basically like, oh, I'll hop on and do another bachelor's. I
Oh,
don't care. I'll
yeah.
help you all the way through it. And so
Yeah,
it,
exactly, exactly. And
yeah,
it's just people are so willing to help. Hey, inbox me and I'll tell you what you need to do, you know, or
yeah,
I'll guide you through this and I'll send you some notes. I'll send you the notes that I have. You know, I have these, I take plenty of notes. I'll send it to you, you know.
right,
People are just so willing to help in those groups. I know for a fact like that has been like probably one of my number one guides. It's just those groups, the Facebook groups, the Reddit groups, just reading those and going through those before my class starts, it actually helps you prepare,
right,
you know, so you kind of know what you're getting into. You're not going in blind. So I think
yeah,
they were pretty accurate with their descriptions, you know.
yeah. There
So it
was
was really helpful for me.
And I don't know if you experienced this, but for me, in a lot of those groups, there were people like with your story, right? Where you're like, you know, my whole, like a ton of people in my family died and, you know, I lost my job. I got a new one. Like there's so many of those stories you see in the groups. Something that kind of, I guess, irked me was that they, they say that stuff. And my buddy that went through and did it really fast, he was reading those comments and going, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, you know, this
Oh, it's so
person, like,
discouraging.
yeah, like in the caps. I mean, it. it just, you have to know how to take it, right? So I used to be like, hey, look at this one, and it would say like, a lot of people in my family died, I got married, and then I got divorced like within 6 months or something, and just a really wild story. And
Yeah.
then they would say something like, I've been stuck on task 2 of the capstone for 8 weeks, and I'm like,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and I did it in a week, and you did it
Yeah.
in a week, and so there's tons of people that do it in a week, but then there's other people that post and they're like, I'm so mad, I've been stuck on financial management for 8 weeks. And in my experience, it was like, I don't think you have. I think you, like, that's the last class you did, and you
Yeah.
haven't done anything for 8 weeks. But for people,
Absolutely.
like, I don't know, in your experience, do you think it's like when people say I've been stuck on something for a month or two
It's
months
just right. You haven't progress. It's not
Yeah,
stuck. You haven't put in the time. I believe, but it's just my
yeah,
thought, my opinion, that you haven't put in the time to progress forward. So
right.
yeah, you are stuck there because until you do that, you can't, go on to the next thing.
Yeah,
So I don't think it's a matter of I put in all this effort and I'm just still stuck there.
yeah,
If that is the case, you most definitely haven't utilized all the tools that are available to you. You haven't
absolutely.
reached out, you haven't, tapped into those resources, you haven't reached out to the course instructor because you
Yeah,
wouldn't be stuck that long. Like there's no class that we had that would take that long to move through at all.
yeah.
Like,
And again, I think if you don't know anything, and like for
yeah,
you, you've been working for a long time, right? Like I guess
yeah,
I might empathize with that if it was say a stay-at-home mom who got their degree in maybe psych 20 years ago and they're going back to
right.
the MBA and they're like, I've been stuck for a few weeks. But if I'm ever advising someone, I'm like, hey, that's not you. If you've had a job, you are learning every day
Mhm.
about business administration. You're doing it every single day. And to think that I can't do it because I don't know business. It's like, well, do you have a job? Yeah. Then payroll, HR, you know what it means to be managed under somebody. You know what a leader looks like. You know how to lead people. Even if you don't, right? It's like you're
Right.
interacting with these people every day. And I've never been a manager anywhere, but I know what my manager has to do to manage me and what the
Mhm.
policies are and what he can do and what I have to do. And so learning all that stuff, it's like, hey, 75% of these classes. And then when you go into it, but I feel like that part of the groups is a little, you have to know how to read the group, because when I go look at some of these profiles, like one of the girls was like, yeah, this is my 4th semester and I'm halfway through the MBA. And I'm like, I don't think you're doing this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you, it's hilarious to read the Yelp reviews of Western Governors because so many people give it 1 star and they're like, I joined up and my proctor was racist and so I quit and they didn't give me it. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, and then the next review down is like, I loved every proctor, I loved every
Yeah.
counselor, I loved everything about it.
And
And
I never had any issues with my proctors. Everyone was very nice,
yes, yeah,
understanding. Like, I mean, I never, I did everything that was, pre-warned. So like, make sure your desk is clear, make sure your space, it's quiet in your space. So it shouldn't be too many issues, unless I know everybody's space is differently. Some people may live in a smaller space and it's maybe
yeah,
harder to keep their kids quiet. So I was blessed to be able to send my kids far away. I could be downstairs, they could be upstairs, I could be in my office downstairs, or I could be upstairs in my space that I set aside when I want to be upstairs, and they can go downstairs. So so I know it's different for everybody. Their space may be limited or what
yeah,
they have to do, but I never had any issues with any proctors. Everything always went very well. So
yeah. No, I think it's very doable. It depends on your life circumstances. But when people come out of the gate and they're like, it's Western Governor's fault that I can't do this, that's where I start getting really skeptical because I'm like, it's all on you, man.
it's
You're the one.
mindset.
Yeah,
It is
you're doing the
absolutely
class, right?
mindset. Yeah, it's absolutely mindset. What you nurture is what grows.
Yeah,
So if you place doubt and that's what you feed, that's what's going to grow. If you place failure in your mind, that's what's going to happen. It's what you nurturing. So if you nurture success, that's what's going to happen, and you're going to do anything possible to succeed.
yeah,
And that's just kind of how I feel about those things. And even when I had to take a break in between, Um, I felt like I had failed and everything. I had given up, and I wanted to give up because I was just in a low place. But one of the things I've always told myself is, even when you fall forward because you're heading the right direction.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so I felt like I had failed and I had fallen down, but I got back up because I still headed in the same direction, and my goal never changed. I really wanted this for myself, and when you want something for yourself, you go do it. If you
yeah,
really, really want it for yourself.
right. And
There's
I
no,
I mean,
there's
I've
nothing
had,
gets in your way. Yeah.
yeah, I've had a lot of people go like that I've known that go through it. And my one friend, he's on his third semester, and I think he's 60% of the way through the bachelor or through the MBA. He's the one that got me into it, and I finished a year before he did. And I'm just like, I sent him all my videos. I'm like, dude, I started 4 months after you, and you're still you're still
Yeah.
halfway through, right? But he moved and got a new job and got delayed. So I mean, everybody's got their place, but if he got on and he was like, Western Governors is stopping me from progressing, I'd be like, yeah, right, dude. You are the one in
Yeah.
control of that. And you've got to go faster if you want to do it. And it's fine because he's getting tuition reimbursement. That's another thing too. Like I
Yeah.
paid for it out of pocket. I don't know if you got tuition reimbursement or something. How did you
Yeah.
end up paying for it?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. I had tuition reimbursement through work and then some out of pocket too. So
So what, because I'm curious, you started, right? And then you got fired and got a new job. So that
Mhm.
new job, typically people can't pay. And for,
Yeah. So now
people listening,
everything was
it's about,
this last part has all been out of pocket.
yeah,
So yeah. So that's why I was like, I'm getting done. I'm not. I'm not going into another term. So
right.
I got to knock this out.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, I think it's after everything, I ended up paying about 5 grand, and then maybe a little bit more because I had interest on it. I paid through a credit card and got points and then just
yeah.
paid it off later. But tuition reimbursement, it really depends on your company because I
Mhm.
messaged about 20 people at my last company who had their degrees from Western Governors. I worked at Kelly Services, and none of them used tuition reimbursement. They were like, no, I got my degree. I got it while I was here, but I didn't use tuition reimbursement. And I don't know if they didn't want to or if they thought they were going to leave or whatever. I was trying to use it, but didn't end up getting it because I got fired. And then they're like, well, your position shrank. We don't have the room for you anymore. So you're out of here. And I was like, oh, okay. So what about tuition reimbursement? They said, yeah, we can't do it. But I got a sign on bonus at the beginning that I was like, well, that basically pays for it. So for people like trying to pay for it, that's been the biggest thing for a lot of people. But for me, the average salary of an MBA from Western Governors is about $80,000 a year, is what
Mhm.
I've read just statistically. I know people can get higher, but when an average bachelor's salary is 60,000 a year, and an average MBA is from Western is 80K a year. So you're giving yourself, to put
Yeah.
5K into an MBA or even 10K, you get that back almost in a year,
Yeah.
depending on the
Yeah.
role you go for. For you, what do you think your next career move is now that you've got the MBA?
Absolutely looking to get into more leadership roles.
Yeah.
I've already talked to, so like I said, I've done pretty much C-suite for the last probably 10, 15 years. So I've already talked to like my CFO and my CEO about, just next steps and going through like a mentorship program to, grow in the leadership area. Like I've been a supervisor of like support staff. So because I've always been like kind of like a kind of like a chief of staff more so. So I've had people under me.
Yeah.
But I would like to, just grow in that area and just transition a little bit more. My work here lately has been in the nonprofit area.
Oh,
So the
okay.
salaries aren't always as high as it would be in a private area, but it still would be decent enough. Like once was when I got my bachelor's degree, my salary definitely went up over $60,000. So
Yeah.
I definitely believe that it'll be 90 probably in like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
It's just about what opportunity that I'm looking for and
Yeah, and for me, that's what makes it a no-brainer. Like if you were, my friend got his, he went to Texas and got his degree in accounting, and I think it was 50 grand or something. And I'm like, hey, if you get a good job, good, but paying off 50 grand if it's only going to get you a 90K or 100K a year. It's like, dude, go find a cheaper university, right? Like for him,
Yeah,
it's working out. It sounds like it's working out so far, but other people, I mean, you go to school and you get 40, $50,000 in debt, and then you just get a 60K a year job. It's like, dude, Western already does that. So do a lot
yeah,
of state and community colleges. And if all you're going to do is go get 60K a year after that, there's no point in spending that much on your education. You might as well go get a respected degree or an accredited degree and start a new job. I think I've seen some where it's like they get their degree and then they go to an Ivy League school on a Western Governor's bachelor's, and I'm like, well, I don't know how you did that, but I mean, it's respected, right? And when I was in staffing, I met with all these different companies where I would have to go and say, what kind of candidate are you looking for? Do you care if they've graduated from here? What degree do you have? And I met a guy who got his MBA, and he's like, oh, I was like, I was regional, and then now I'm a director because I have the MBA. And he got in a year for 5, 10. Oh, I guess it would be 10 grand if he took a year. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's a no brainer. If you're not going to go to a school that costs 60 grand or like a higher level university, and you're like, I just want to make 20K more a year at my job, just rush through the MBA as
yeah.
fast as you can go and then do it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this yet. I feel like the students help out, but have you seen anything or used any of the career programs that Western Governors offers? Because as far as I know, you have to be aggressive reaching out to alumni to be like, hey, I need a job. What do you do? How do you find it? I don't feel like they do very good at helping you find a job or doing a career fair, but I
I
haven't used
haven't
it.
really seen that. Like I've seen a couple of emails come through, but no, I haven't utilized any of it. I haven't reached out to it or done any of the webinars and things that I have seen come through. Um, for me, I get the ROI of getting your
Yeah.
degree, at Western Governors. Like it's immediately beneficial. Like if you do this in like a term, even if you do it in 2 terms, that's $10,000.
Yeah.
You're gonna get that back on your salary addition with whatever position that you go for next. If you're looking for something and you're looking for a place to grow, that alone is gonna get you that money back. So for me, it's a no-brainer because the return on investment is great,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Yeah. Do you
but
feel
yeah,
like, um, I mean, I think a lot of people wish they'd done it sooner. I do for sure. But
I
how
do,
do you
you
think
know.
it would have affected your career if you got your MBA 10 years ago? I mean, the
Oh my
career
gosh.
tracks where you're at, what do you think would have happened to you just hypothetically?
Oh, I I definitely be running somebody's company by now. Because it's like, as a EA, you're the gatekeeper. So you kind of are running all of the behind the scene things. So I would have definitely been in leadership roles a lot earlier. But like I said, I just went back to get my bachelor's degree. So a lot of my positions that I've gotten through the years, I was supposed to already have a bachelor's degree,
Sure.
but I had a lot of experience as an EA. So it kind of got me in the door. It probably got me less pay than someone that had a bachelor's degree. And once I got my bachelor's degree, my pay literally went up $15,000.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and that was just getting that. And within a couple of months, I had that, that over 60 salary. So
Right. Yeah. And
um,
it's not immediate, right? It's like I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you get it and it's like, hey, they already have you. They're
yeah,
not going to pay you more, but come
right.
bonus time or come a job switch, it's like, hey,
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah,
negotiating tool right
you
away.
exactly right away. You have that on there, and they just really want to see that you're willing to put in some extra effort. That's
Yeah.
really all it comes to. Because with any job you do, for the most part, you're trained. In leadership roles, you probably have to come with understanding how to be a leader. But with a lot of the jobs, or like if you're going into accounting, I think you have that background for the most part, and it's just you're going to be trained on whatever systems or whatever else they have going on in their processes. So you come with your basic knowledge and just look to move forward from there. So
Yeah. I think that's one thing about jobs that's kind of irritating is like they want you to have an education and then they re-educate you the second you get into work. It's like,
yeah, because you have to be reindoctrinated into the way they do things, you know.
yeah.
So
But I mean, I was talking to my brother about this and he was like, dude, I could go be an underwater welder for 80K a year, 2 years out of high school. And I'm like, yeah, or you could go get an MBA in 2 years and make 80K, and you don't have to sit in the frigid cold waters of the East Coast
It's
welding
like,
pipes together with, a bunch of coworkers you don't like and you travel with all the time. Like, I mean, there's
and it's
the
dangerous work,
yeah,
you could.
the mortality rate, I think it's one of the highest. And I'm like, for 80K, and same thing with it's like, why don't I just go get my CDL? It's like, well, then you'll be on the road away from your family. But if you go
Yeah.
get an MBA, you can be at home. Like, I've worked remotely probably the last 3 or 4 years because I've
Mhm.
had a bachelor's degree and financial licenses. And other people are like, oh, I don't want to do that, that's boring. But then they'll end up driving truck, and it's like some of them like it and some of them are like, oh, I need to go back and get my degree. I'm like, well, it's
Yeah,
going to be a lot harder driving 10 hours a day, right?
exactly. The wear and tear on your body alone, that physical, and then just being away, and I don't know.
It's hard
Maybe
on
they want to be
people.
away from their families.
Yeah. I mean, what I felt like going through this is like education is the cheat code. Some people are like, just go do trades. College isn't for them. And I'm like, well, have you tried all kinds of college? Like, have you tried Western Governors? Have you tried getting your degree at a community college? Like, there's so many ways to it. And then it's like, well, I'm not an Ivy League person. It's like, neither is most of the workforce, man. You can go
Yeah,
get your degree and have a lot better experience. And you don't necessarily need to have you don't need to go be a plumber because you hate college. You might just do a
yeah,
different degree path or do a different schooling technique. But I think that it's obviously a no-brainer for people who don't have their education. Like, I'm helping my brothers get into it right now, and my sister's going back into it. My brother-in-law got his whole bachelor's start to finish with 0 transfer credits in 4 months. And I was just like, whoa, that's
wow.
that's got to
Yeah,
be tough.
that's
I
pretty
mean, it sounds
amazing.
like
Yeah,
you got it pretty fast too, because I know most credits
yeah,
don't transfer. So you probably powered through the bachelor's.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But I was like, I'm late.
Yeah.
I'm late on the bandwagon, so I need to go ahead and get it done. And then COVID was happening, so it kind of made it a little bit easier to just focus on that a little bit,
Yeah.
and just knock it out because the world was at a standstill. So
Yeah.
just
Might
keep
as
your
well.
mind busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During a recession, lots of people go back to school. And I mean, COVID was a quick recession, right? Like, we
Mhm.
hopped back out of it by the end of the
Absolutely.
year.
Absolutely.
But it's still, anytime people are in financial crisis, a lot of them are just like, you know what, I got to go back to school. And it's like, dude, if that's where you're at, you should go to WGU. It's the fastest way to get your degree done. And I mean, it's respected by pretty much every employer that I've ever gone to here. I live where it's based. My aunt lives
Okay.
right by the Utah campus. So it's weird how it's not well known, but every employer respects it in most
Yeah.
cases. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess that's how it works. But anyway, it's gonna kick us off here. I didn't know there was a time
Okay.
limit on it, but
Oh, no, it's probably like the 40, is it the hour, 45 minutes probably?
yeah, something like that. But
Okay.
I'll message you for some links. I'll send you the video when it's put up. And if you want people
Okay.
to like message you on LinkedIn or whatever, um, then they'll be able to. But I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to staying connected with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I followed you on LinkedIn, so
Oh, good.
you'll see me.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well, I'll see you.
You have a
Thanks,
great
DaRhanda.
day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.